Welcome to the online lectures for information security. Now, within the previous class, we have studied the brief introduction of what information security is and what are the topics that we'll be covering within the study of information security. Now, we very well remember the definition for information security. What is information security? Information security means you're going to protect the information, or you can say data, from any type of unauthorized access is called as information security. Now, the definition given by Jim Anderson states that information security is a well-informed sense of assurance that the information risk and control are in balance. Now, what does this mean? Like risk and control are in balance means risk means any type of unauthorized access is a risk. And how you're going to avoid this unauthorized access, that is called as control. How you're going to protect the entire data is called as information security. Now, before we begin analyzing the details of the information security, it is necessary that we review the origin of this field, why we have started securing the data, what was the impact, and why information security is considered today. Now, this figure in here, this figure is an Enigma machine. Now, this machine was used within the World War II. That was used by the German people, that is the Department of Defense or military, were using this particular device for communication. Now, what type of communication? As military is communicating, where do you need to bomb? All types of information were communicated by making use of this Enigma machine. Now, in here, this British people, they somehow got access to this Enigma machine. Now, the main goal for the British people was how you're going to break the code. How you're going to break the code. Now, break the code means how you're going to access the encrypted information. The encrypted data, how you're going to decode or how you're going to intercept the messages that were sent by the military department. Now, if you're able to intercept the messages, you'll be able to stop a particular attack. So, the main goal was how you're going to break this particular Enigma machine. Now, the main thing was in here was that the settings that were used for encrypting the data, they used to be changed within every 24 hours. So if you want to break it, you have to break the code within 24 hours. If you are unable to break within the 24 hours, again the encryption standards that were used, these encryption standards, they used to be reset within the 24 hours of the encryption standards that were used. So in here, there was a famous mathematician, Alan Turing. This person was successful in decoding the messages that was transferred by this Enigma machine. Now, how did he break this code? Now, this code was breaking as he developed an electromechanical device. An electromechanical device was designed so that you can give input as a code so that you can break this encrypted information. An electromagnetic machine. If you've seen the movie The Imitation Game, you can have a clear picture of how this particular Enigma machine was designed to, how an electromagnetic device was created to break this Enigma machine. So Alan Turing was successful in breaking the code so that you can intercept the messages, and by making use of this electromagnetic device that was used to intercept the messages that were transferred between the military department, the World War II came to an end a bit early. So at this place, at this time, we got to know that there is a great chance for interception of messages. So we need to implement security measures. Now within this, the history of information security, we're going to begin with the entire history of the information security coming on with the from the different set of years. Now in here, this began immediately after the development of first mainframe computers. What are mainframe computers? The huge bulky computers that you use, those are the mainframe computers. Now these mainframe computers that were developed for code breaking computation. Now an example that I gave you, that Alan Turing developed a machine that is an electromagnetic device was created. A huge machine in which you're going to give different electromagnetic devices are created, and by each rotation you'll be able to intercept the encryption technique that you're using, the code that you're using. That device was developed. Now this device was developed during the World War II to break which machine? The Enigma machine. Now multiple levels of security were implemented. The different security levels were the code that you're using for encryption. It used to change within every 24 hours. So these were the different security levels that were embedded within the Enigma machine. Now in here, as you got to know that there are different security breaches that can be done within a particular device, there were physical controls were given so that you can implement security at least a basic level. Now these security was implemented by giving different keys to different persons, or you can say giving different badges to every individual so that they can access the machine. If you have a specific key, then only you can enter the particular organization, or then only you've got access to the particular machine or device or whatever codes that you're working on. This was the basic physical controls that were provided. Now if someone gets access for your key or badge, then again it is possible that they can get access to the work that you're doing. Now the previous machines that were developed, those were rudimentary. Now rudimentary means it requires a basic, it has this basic implementation. It does not have different classification of projects, different document presentations are not there. You've got just basic document you were able to develop. There was no operating system, and you had no different types of computers were not there. That is, you had got just basic document representation. You're just going to write codes, or you're just going to send messages. That was the basic documentation technique. So in here, as the previous machines are the previous mainframe computers, they had only access to rudimentary specifications of a particular file, that is just adding data. It is not like nowadays you're able to send voice messages, voice notes, videos, everything. It does not have all of this, or you're using different operating system for different applications. All of this was not there. Just basic communication was possible by making use of the previous computers. Now in here, within this, the main threat was that any primary threats, you can say. Now this primary threat was if anyone was able to physically steal your device. Now this example we've already studied, like Enigma was stolen, and as this machine was stolen, then only you were able to intercept the messages that were transferred. So the main threat within the mainframe computers was if there was any type of physical theft. Or espionage means any spy is there within your particular organization that is telling what messages they are sending or what type of information they are sending. And sabotage is any type of intentional damage that you want to do. Intentional damage on any political figure or for any war type of purpose, military purpose, that is your sabotage. So this is the history of the information system. Now within the year 1960s, within the 1960s, the original methods of communication was mailing tapes. Now this type of tape that you're using, those were magnetic tapes were used. Now magnetic tapes, we can say an example of this magnetic tape can be cassettes. We've seen those huge bulky black cassettes that has got two magnetic tapes. You used to put it within this, what do we say? This, this was used within the VCR or different tape recorders. We use this magnetic tape. So this were used for communication. If you had to send someone anything, you're going to just record it into a magnetic tape and you're going to mail it to the particular person. This was the original method of communication that was used within the 1960s. Now the Department of Defense for Advanced Research Project Agency, this project was funded by the Department of Defense. Now the main objective of this particular project was that you should be able to identify any type of reliable and redundant way for communication between mainframe computers for your security of the data. So the main goal of this ARPA was to identify any reliable and redundant techniques for mainframe computers to provide communication. That is, some type of security should be there. So the person Larry Roberts, this is also called as the founder of Internet. This person, before developing Internet, he developed this ARPANET. So ARPANET was used first, then Internet came into existence later. So this Larry Roberts developed a project that was called as ARPANET, and this plan considered for linking computers. You're going to link different set of computers. Instead of mailing the tapes, you're going to link the computers so that you can mail them over the internet. You can use the internet facility to transfer messages between the different clients. As you're sending messages between different clients, you're doing is resource sharing. After linking the computers, you're able to transfer messages within the computer. Now, this plan first focused on linking 17 computer research centers, and the cost was high, up to 3.4 millions. Now, between the 1970s and 80s, now as ARPANET was developed so that you can transfer data between different mainframe computers, resource sharing was available. As it grew in popularity, as the popularity grew, the misuse also grew. Now, in here, as popularity, now first main method was so that you can communicate between different devices. Now, how the misuse grew? Now, within this, there was a person named Robert M. Now, within the year 1973, you can say within December 1973, he pointed out a few problems that were there within the ARPANET. Now, within this ARPANET, individual remote sites were not secured for unauthorized users. As basically this was designed only for communication, they did not consider security as a particular high level priority. They did not consider it as high level priority. It was considered as low level priority. This was one of the drawback that was marked by Robert M. Then the next drawback was vulnerability of password structure and format. That is, in here they became easy to crack. Now, easy to crack means you've got weak passwords. Now, nowadays, whenever you create an account on any of the website or anywhere, when you create a password, it asks you to create a strong password. Now, what is a strong password? A strong password is going to have capital letters, uppercase letters. It should have lowercase letters. it should have numbers, and any type of special symbols should be used. Comprising of this, it will be a strong password. And nowadays we're using techniques like you need to change your password within a few number of days or a few weeks. You should not write down your password, you should not save your password. So within the previous era, within the 1970s and 80s, as the passwords that you created, they were weak password, they became easy to crack, they were easily vulnerable. That is, you can use a brute force technique, that is going to guess the password. It can be your date of birth, anything related to you, it will be easy for you to search the passwords. Then the next one is no safety procedures for dial-up connections to ARPANET. Now, whenever you have to whenever you want to connect to the internet, whenever you have to connect to the internet, you need to put in a number and you need to click in the dial-up button. That is as you're dialing a number, the same way you had to put in the number. Now, there was no safety procedures because within this date, when these numbers were used for advertisement purpose, they were posted on different walls. So anyone who has got access to this number via different types of walls that were pasted, these phone numbers, you can easily hack that data that is present in here. Thus, it was openly distributed. Any type of hackers that has got any type of tools, they have got easy access and they can exploit the information that they have got over the internet. Because in here, as you're connecting onto the internet, you can have any type of access within of data within the world, so you can directly exploit the security functions, or you can exploit the loopholes of the security. The last point is non-existent user identification and authorization. There was no technique that was used for identify or authorize a particular system. Now, if suppose you want to, if you have to implement any higher level of security within your account, what do you do? If you want to secure your Gmail account, you're given some two-step verification. If anyone has got access to your email ID password, if they put in the email ID password also, you're going to get a message onto your phone that you need to press an OK, or you need to enter a code that acts as your user identification. This is the person that has got access to the account. Then only you can access the email system. So this type of functions were not present within the ARPANET. Now there was a RAND report R609. This was the number of the particular report. Now this was again given by the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense, they have issued this particular report. Now this report defined the different controls and the mechanism that you need to protect a computer system. A report, RAND R609, that was published by the Department of Defense. This defined the different controls and mechanisms that you need to use, that you need to implement within your computer. Now, this paper stated the study of computer security, what is computer security, why it is necessary, each and everything was defined. And information security, as we know it, began. That is, this particular name was defined as information security that we are studying within our syllabus. That is, in here, we have started learning about computer security after the publishment of this particular report. Now, as the scope of, after this publishing of this particular document, the scope of computer security grew. Now, from physical security, now what was the physical security that we were using? We had different types of keys, batches that were involved. So we evolved from physical security to include the safety of the data. limitation unauthorized access by providing security, or you can have uh, authorization techniques. You might need to include some specific number so that you can access your data. Like you can have any type of protected data, protected files. Then involvement of personnel from multiple levels of an organization. Now, as you've got multiple levels within an organization, if suppose some people need to have minimum access, for those people you're going to give minimum access. For other people that need maximum access, you're going to give maximum access to those particular set of people. That is for different people, you're going to give different level of access. This was implemented within the 1970s and the 80s. Now, in here, we also used a system that was called as Multics. Now, this Multics in here stands for multiplexed information and computing service. This enabled all of these techniques within this, or you can say this Multics is a type of operating system that enabled the safety of data, authorization, and it implemented different levels of security. So this is the first operating system with security as its primary goal. Now, this computer has, as you know, it has implemented the security of data, multiple levels of security. This was developed within the 1960s. Like it was developed within like 1969, end of 1969. So it was used within the 90s, 70s, and 80s. Now, after this particular system was introduced, a few people that has formed Multics, they implemented Unix operating system. That was the first or the next operating system after Multics was Unix operating system was developed. First Multics was there, then Unix was developed. Now, the main drawback of Unix was that the security issues that were there within the Multics, that is the password protection, this was not present within the Unix operating system. Within the Unix operating system, password protection was not there. It considered it as a very low priority. Now, password protection, it got added within the different later stages. Over time, password protection got added within the Unix operating system. Then within the late 1970s, we started using different types of microprocessors for different computing capabilities. You've got different microprocessors for different capabilities. You've started using different microprocessors. As you've studied microprocessors, there are different types of microprocessors, 8085, 8086. Different microprocessors was used for different types of functions or different types of computations. Then within the late 1970s, the mainframe presence reduced. That is, in place of using this mainframe computers, we started using desktop computers at home as well as at workplace also. That is, this mainframe computers were reduced and you have got desktop computers onto that has evolved. As the desktop computers evolved, you had expanded security threats. As we are expanding the security, the threats also get increased. Now, within the late 1990s, that is to the close of the 20th century, the need for connecting the different computers became more common. As we were using the different desktop computers were used at workplace and at home. So the need for connecting these computers arose. Connecting the different computer networks, they became more common and it became a necessity, we can say. And you need to the need to interconnect the networks also grew. That is, connecting different set of networks across the particular area grew. Now in here within the late 19th, now as we have studied that within the ARPANET, it was the predecessor of internet. Now this ARPANET, it has taken security as a very low priority. Whereas when internet came, we have considered security as a high level. So internet was developed and it is based upon the basic de facto standards. Now in the early internet deployments, as initially that is ARPANET, security was treated as low priority. Now as security was treated as low priority, so in here the information got exposed to different threats, and this information got access across different world. Different types of attacks or different types of malware were launched across different set of devices within the Unix operating system. Within the 1996, there was a huge attack as a Satan attack where the worm got replicating itself. That is a very famous attack within the Unix. So from in here we started integrating security as a very high level. Security we were considering, but again at a high priority level we started considering security. Now from the 2000 to present, internet has brought multiple millions of computers to communicate among themselves. Now in here these different computers, these are unsecured computers that need to communicate among themselves. So the ability to secure the computer's data was influenced by security of every computer to which it is connected. That is, in here you've started implementing the security of data at every computer level. At every computer level, that is, as within the internet we've got the different TCP IP protocol got implemented, how you're going to do the packet transfer, how you're going to encode the packet, the encryption, the entire TCP IP protocol got implemented, the security of data that you're transmitting, everything got implemented at every computer level. That is, when you're transmitting, the data is going to be encoded. When the data is being received, it is then going to be decoded. Along the network also you provided different security measures. Now as we have started with the different security protocols to implement within the network, we have got the different threats of cyber attacks has also increased. So every now and then we start hearing that there is a new ransomware, there's a new malware that is being installed into a particular website, or it got duplicated and it is going to comprise the entire security of the information system. So as security is evolving, the different types of cyber attacks are also evolving, because there are many different tools that are present. So as we know, there's different types of attacks are being, as the different types of attacks are issued upon different websites or different organizations. As we learn the different types of attacks, we are going to learn how we are going to secure the different information and the different set of data that are present within the information system. Now this is a graph that shows the different vulnerabilities in the year 2006 to 2011. As you can see the graph in here, in 2006 it was till 4000, to 2007 it got a bit low, then till 2010 it had 6253, then in 2011 again it got decreased. So now within in here, the vulnerabilities that were exposed within from the year 16 to 20, you can see in here, till 2016 the vulnerability status was till 75.6. In 17 it grew, in 18 it got decreased, then till 2020 you can see that successful attacks, that is 80.7%. You can see the different types of attacks that are increasing. So as attacks are increasing, that is, there is less level of security, because every time you implement a security algorithm, there is a chance that there is a loophole present. So as we get to know how successful the attacks are, you're going to identify and you're trying to eliminate any types of loopholes within the information security systems, any type of compromise of information.